Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery, and today I am going to be sharing a slightly different kind of video. It's not going to be a project video, and it's not going to be even really a technique video. It's more of an experimental sort of thing. If you've watched my videos for any length of time, you know that I like to build my quilling on top of wax paper. I started this way. I'm not 100% sure where I got the tip from, but I've always used wax paper when I need a place to build my quilling on. I like to put it on top of a cork board and go from there. It's inexpensive, it's relatively see-through. I can sometimes use the same piece more than once. It's easy to find. For many reasons, this is what I've started with. But I do get a lot of questions, honestly, once or twice a week at this point. What else can I use if I don't have wax paper or I can't find wax paper? I don't think I realize that it's not as readily available in other countries as it is here in the US. So what else can I use instead of wax paper? So we're going to do an experiment today with a few different surfaces, and we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what we like. Now, first of all, any of these surfaces that I'm using can be done with or without a template. I'm not using a template for this experiment, but I just wanted to show any of them are, again, relatively see-through, so they can be used with a template. That was important for this experiment. What I'm going to be using again is wax paper. There you go. There's the sheet I was holding before. You can see through it. It has a slick surface. One side's a little bit more slick than the other, but generally it peels the glue off pretty easily. Then I have parchment paper. The one I have is unbleached parchment, so it's kind of this brownish color, but again, you can see through it. Not as slick as wax paper, but we will see how that goes. I use this when I cook all the time, so I'm a big fan of parchment in the kitchen. We'll see how it works with quilling. Here is another surface. This is cellophane wrap, plastic wrap, saran, whatever you want to call it. Obviously totally see-through, much thinner than the other papers, so I have a feeling how that one's going to go. But I also wanted to share, this is another plastic sheet. It's used in like binders to protect papers or something like that. It's very thin. I'm going to be cutting it up and using it in just like one layer. There's two layers there because it's a folder. I'm going to cut it up and use it in a different way. So I'm going to make the exact same quillings on 4 different surfaces, like I said, and they're really basic little fruit shapes. I'm not going to take the time to demo how to make these. I really just wanted something that I would have to do in a few different pieces so that I could test how they stayed together on the surface. I am adding glue underneath these pieces, which is not necessarily how I would do this for real quilling work. So this is, I'm trying to use a little bit more glue, I should say, than I would regularly. Like I did not need to add glue underneath this lemon necessarily, but the whole point is to see how the glue comes off the surface. That's one of the main issues with these different surfaces, is how does the quilling peel off? Does the glue stick? Does it make a mess? So, you know, I wouldn't necessarily put glue underneath of these pieces, but I'm doing them all the same because I really want to experiment with that part. I'm also going to be adding pins where I wouldn't necessarily be using pins, but that's another thing I wanted to test out. Do the pins, are they hard to get into the surfaces? Do they move the quilling around when I am pushing them in? So just going through, first the wax paper, then the parchment, then the plastic wrap, and then this is the thin plastic sheet, the binder sheet that I cut up that I showed last. So everything is trying to get it as close as possible to each other and really make this little experiment, I don't know if it's scientific as I could make it, having everything be the same. Here I have the wax paper and the parchment, and then I also have the plastic wrap and the plastic sheet. So everything looks more or less the same. Everybody has pins, everybody has sort of an excess amount of glue just to see how that sticks. And set these aside and let them dry, and then we'll start peeling them off and seeing how everything worked out. So it's a little while later and it's time for the big reveal. So let's take out my pins first and go from there. So this is normally how I would take quilling off of a piece of wax paper, get the pins out, and I like to use my needle tool and just kind of rub it underneath. And as usual, especially since I added extra glue, a little bit of resistance. So I have to go from a couple of different directions sometimes. There's the glue that's left on the paper. You can see I really did add a good amount under there. This is all pretty typical for the wax paper. Nothing unusual so far. There we go. Got the last one off. And there we go. You can see a little bit of glue on the back. That is usual. If it sticks out, I do trim it with some scissors, but everything came off as it usually does. A little bit more glue on there. And I did notice doing this experiment that the wax paper leaves sort of a white tinge to the glue, and just keep that in the back of your brain for 1 second until we move on. But there we go. Wax paper, inexpensive, easy to find. I also get mine from the dollar store. Works really well. So next we have the parchment paper. So same idea. Let's get rid of the pins. 1, 2, 3. And then again, let's use the same needle tool, same process, and it pops right off. I will be 100% honest. I did not think the parchment paper was slick enough to have it come off that easily. The glue as well is clear on the underside, the little glue dots that are left. It doesn't have that same kind of whitish tinge to it that the wax paper has. Again, the glue is on the quilling, so there might be some, trim work necessary, but very surprised about how easily this parchment released that glue. I have heard mixed reviews. I've heard that it won't work, but it did. I just want to show also, even though this is the brown parchment paper, you can still see, at least the templates that I share on my website, you can still see the template underneath. So, bear that in mind. All right, so here's the plastic wrap. It is very wrinkly. I know people have said they use cling wrap for this, which is the plastic wrap that I guess sort of sticks to things. I don't have that available, so I just used what I had. okay, the quilling pops off. That is good. I can't say I would ever use this again though, specifically for the wrinkliness. The pins were kind of hard to keep in place. Maybe for something like this where I wasn't trying to keep on edge quilling in place or anything like that. It didn't really matter where things lay, but it moves around a lot. Perhaps the cling wrap that is not supposed to move doesn't move. Again, I don't know, but for experiment's sake, this particular kind of paper or wax, that's not wax paper, plastic wrap, I would not recommend. So let's say a C- for that one. Similar vein though, if you have a plastic baggie, think about using that as well. You can cut it up. You could probably even use it as is, but you can get twice as much if you cut it up. See-through. Just something else I wanted to throw out there. But let's get to our last experiment. Move everything out of the way. So here is the plastic sheet. As I remind you, this is what it looked like. And then I cut it into the square and put it right on my board. I was minorly concerned about how easily the pins would go in. Very easy answer. They went right in and they stayed in place. The glue took a little bit longer to dry. Oh, there you go. That one didn't even stick, but that was my fault. That wasn't the paper error. This literally like glided off. That was pretty amazing. That might be a little tricky again if it's really delicate on edge work or filigree. You know, if you push it the wrong way, that might kind of go flying. This is a little bit more expensive as well. We had a ton of these left over that my husband had brought home at some point, so they're just in my basement. But I really liked that plastic sheet. I think, you know, I had some surprising elements here. That parchment paper, that really worked. I don't know if it's the brand I had. I've had some wax paper in the past that didn't work as well as others. But this, that Reynolds parchment paper, that worked really well. This Saran wrap did not work. Do not recommend. I would not use that. If you're a fan of that cling wrap, by all means, keep using that. I think I might pull out those plastic sheets more than I thought I would. That really worked well for me. But just like anything else, a lot of this will come down to what's available in your area, what is your personal preference, maybe even what project you're using it for. Like I said, while I was doing it, some of these, I don't know if they'd work as well for on-edge quilling or really delicate work because they were so slick that I would be afraid if I bumped it, maybe I would dent my quilling or something along those lines. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on my little experiment. If you have anything else that you really prefer, leave that in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel so you can be around for my next video. I will leave any links you need down in the description box for this video. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.